Ricardo Varela with Latino Rebels. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Julio.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing
good.
Fine, thanks.
Great. We're going to, like we said, welcome to our show, Governor. We wanted to talk a little bit about what you've been doing in the last couple of weeks regarding the current crisis with unaccompanied minors. And actually, you were probably one of the first. I believe you were the first governor that actually spoke pretty boldly. And I just actually read the quote that you said at the conference. And although a lot of people focused on, the first part of the quote, the second part of the quote to me, when you said through all of our great world religions, we're told that hospitality is essential to human dignity. And I'm told that you're a Jesuit high school graduate like myself, and that faith really matters, is very strong to you. How does faith guide you in this issue?
Well, from the beginning of this humanitarian crisis, I've seen it as a humanitarian crisis. These kids are fleeing violence and escalating murders in their own home countries, and I think it calls upon all of us to treat them with some compassion and the sort of kindness that every world religion says that we should show to strangers, especially if those strangers are refugees fleeing famine or fleeing war, or in this case fleeing death squads. And I believe it was, I think the Pope himself said recently that Jesus was a child refugee fleeing the slaughter of the innocent. And I might add to that, thank goodness, the Egyptian Border Patrol didn't intercept the flight into Egypt and send the Holy Family back to Herod. So we need to look at this for the humanitarian crisis that it is, and perhaps even there's something we can learn from strangers. Maybe there's something we can all learn as Americans from this experience when it comes to making our, being more engaged and in more productive and life-giving partnerships with our neighbors here in the Americas.
Right.
So, anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead of your interview, but
no, that's okay.
I think a humanitarian challenge, and we must respond as Americans and respond in humane ways.
Right. No, I think it was the fact that a lot of the focus was the first part of what you said, and a lot of people weren't really focusing on the last part of what you said when you mentioned the great world religions, and that was the thing that kind of attracted me to that quote. But at the meantime, it doesn't go out without critics. I mean, even when you said that so strongly, a couple of days later, Politico came out and kind of said that you were against having these kids in Maryland. But now what's happened, I believe on Monday, you had a meeting of religious leaders in Maryland. Can you speak more about what's going on right now in Maryland and how you are dealing with these children?
Sure. From the outset, we have sought to do our part as Marylanders. We're not the largest state in the union, but we do have a role to play, and I think every state and every city has a role to play to alleviate this humanitarian crisis. So many of us here believe that the best setting for children is to reunite the refugee immigrant children with relatives or family members who are already here in our country. We believe that a home setting is best, and that the congregate setting is the worst and should be the very last resort. So we recently pulled together a meeting of all of the faith leaders in our state, and it was very well attended by men and women who have given their lives in many cases to safeguarding vulnerable children by placing them in safe, caring, and loving home settings. And so that's what we believe here in Maryland we need to do. So we've been encouraging our foster care providers to make sure that they enroll and become part of the network of federal foster care providers, which is separate from what our state maintains. I mean, we already have about anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 children at any given point in the year who are in part of our state foster care. So we believe that with better partnership with our federal government, that we could all play a role in expanding the availability of the best home placements and home settings for children while they await their due process hearing. There are some who may well have congregate settings because they already have that capacity, but those things take some time, and they have to be properly staffed. In this case, not only with trained adults, but with trained adults who also have language skills. And so we believe that the best way is to expand the existing networks of foster care providers, and there could also be opportunities, Julio, for parents that are, maybe they don't meet the federal regulation for being foster care providers for these children because they don't speak Spanish. But there could be opportunities through various churches and faiths to partner with families who are taking a child in, and to help them either financially or in other ways to help get the child through this very traumatic period of their life.
Right. And speaking of that, do you believe that the Obama administration, the White House, are they sharing that same message, especially with what the president has proposed to the House of Representatives to actually speed up deportations and actually rethink the 2000 Victimization Act? Where do you stand on that, and what do you feel, where's the White House? Is the White House doing what you think they should be doing?
I think when the White House is most effective is when they are focused on alleviating the humanitarian crisis. And so conversations that are centered on the well-being of the children who are on our doorsteps, I think, are the most productive conversations the White House can have. And I think in some portion of the day they're trying to create those partnerships, and other portions of the day they are being less effective. But I think they're most effective when we look at alleviating the humanitarian crisis and finding safe home placements for children awaiting their due process on their asylum case. I think we're counterproductive when we try to move in the direction of a military response. I mean, this should be a red cross, as Congressman Joaquin Castro said. We shouldn't be sending, we shouldn't be militarizing the border. We should be sending the Red Cross. These are children. They are hungry. They are starving. They've come across a harrowing, trek through the desert and on top of the beast and being muled and used in horrible ways. So this is a humanitarian crisis, but it's not one that's beyond the capability of our country to deal with.
Right.
I mean, we're a country of over 300 million people. And I have found in the course of this larger and better dialogue about the humanitarian nature of this challenge that there's a lot of goodness out there in the hearts of people of every political description and every faith. And we believe, as a country, I am absolutely convinced, and I don't care, what the temporary polling may show, that there's a lot more goodness out there, but it needs to be tapped by our leaders. And so I think the president's most effective when he calls us to address the humanitarian crisis here. And in fairness to the White House, I suppose they're worried that any messages of hospitality will trigger more children fleeing Honduras. I think that greatly overestimates how focused these children and their parents are on the president's messaging rather than how focused they are on the murder gangs and the drug gangs that are out of control and overrunning a country on our neighbors just across our front yard.
Right. Well, we just have a couple more minutes, Governor, and you talk a little bit about people are good, but also sort of the idea that this is such a divided topic and there's a lot of misinformation. Just to speak about Maryland, because I want to focus on your state and the fact that even in your state there's division Where are you seeing the goodness in people? Where are you seeing, people that might know, they might be hearing amnesty, but then all of a sudden realize that this is really about kids? Like, do you have any specific examples?
Yeah, here's a specific example. A few years ago, I think 3 now, we passed the DREAM Act here in Maryland. Mm-hmm. And at the time that we passed it, a lot of ugly language went out to try to tell people that the DREAM Act was something that it wasn't, that we were somehow giving free tuition to illegal immigrants.
Right.
When in point of fact, we were saying that any child whose parents pays taxes in Maryland and graduates from a Maryland high school, regardless of where they are in the naturalization process, if they get into a state university, they pay in-state rates. And once that got to the voters, it was put to them in referendum. And once we had a discussion about it, the people of Maryland approved the DREAM Act here in Maryland by 58%. So it started off as 55% opposed. It ended with 55 in favor. We have also passed a second tier of license. So we're complying with Homeland Security, but we're not criminalizing people who, through no fault of their own, haven't been able to go through the naturalization process. So
right.
They're able to drive to and from work and get insurance and take care of their family and, by the way, be responsible on the highway like everybody else who has to have insurance. So these are the things that we're doing as a state. We have the highest median income in America. We have had a better rate of job creation than either our neighbors to the north or south over these last difficult several years. And we have the lowest unemployment rate among Latinos of any state in America. We believe our diversity is our strength, and it's proved out in our income levels. It's proved out in the opportunities we're able to give our children with now the best schools in America 5 years in a row. So if all of that sounded like an advertisement for Maryland, maybe it was.
Well, you are the governor.
And it's about the heart of the people the hearts of the people that I serve. Look, it's all how you look at the world, man.
Well, we appreciate it, Governor. We know your time is tight. Governor Martin O'Malley, thank you. We'd love to have you back down the road because we have other questions.
Julio, thanks very, very much. Bye-bye.
All right, take care, Governor.